Welcome to special uh, morning, President's Day morning uh, live live chat. I hope those of you that have off are enjoying your weekend off or your long weekend. Uh, Yesterday was kind of a fun day of sports. I was able to I was able to stay home for a little bit and sweat the golf, which was very profitable for those of you that were following that. Very strange, so used to this idea of needing to go 6 for 6 to get there, and I had this one single entry lineup that was in third and fourth the whole weekend. But I just figured that at some point these guys with 6 of 6 were going to come and get me, but they just never did. And then I had a Colin Morikawa with a very nice eagle birdie to finish off his round to win it kind of handily, which is really cool. A pretty good golf day overall. Didn't do well in the NASCAR event, but I think net it was a very profitable day because we were able to have Brandon on, where we answered some questions about lineup builds, and hopefully we will continue to have him on as we get into more racing. As far as the NBA goes yesterday, I did not. I didn't watch any. I mean, I watched like 2 minutes of the All-Star game. I think it's ridiculous. That is just my opinion. I didn't see the dunk contest. I didn't see the three-point shooting. I certainly didn't watch the game. That to me is just not the slightest bit interesting to see. Best NBA players just sit around and loaf around and basically play a game of horse. Throwing up half-court shots. That's, to me, not the slightest bit interesting, and a waste of my 2 hours. So I did not do that. So today there's a couple things going on. Well, first of all, there's tennis that just started, and tennis is a 2-day slate. Can't get in there anymore, but we played some of that. And then there is an earlier hockey slate. Now it's a FanDuel doesn't start till 4:00, but the DraftKings one starts at 1. And I will show you the very intriguing layout of the slate. So as you'll see, I mean, the first couple of games are at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then there's like 3 hours, and there's 2 games at 4 p.m. Philly, Calgary, and Seattle, San Jose. And then there are 2 7 o'clock games, which is the late, early night hammer, so to speak. Winnipeg against the Rangers. Now, with respect to that, just a couple of heads ups. I am not going to be around to update between the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games. I will be back probably to update before the 7 p.m. game. So if there are any changes between 1 and 4, or between I guess 1 and 4 that would impact the 4 o'clock games, they will not be reflected on the sheets. But if there are any changes relevant to the 7 o'clock games, they will be by 7 o'clock though. So to your point, Rich, as far as the whatever injury status there is with respect to Barzal, all I can say is that this is going to be updated at some point before you have to make a decision on him. Now, I know how it goes. You always have to make a decision on these guys, even if you have to decide. Even if their games aren't later, because you have to decide earlier on other options. So I can't really do much about that except just say that we'll update projections after, maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock. We'll definitely get the news before the game starts. And I don't think it's like worth putting stuff off in hockey in a similar way that it's worth doing that in the NBA. Obviously, it's better just in terms of all decision making to act last right? So yes, it would be nice to put these guys off, but I wouldn't like avoid playing early games just for that sake. So I am technically off, but yeah, okay. Some things do come in. So let's look at some of these games here. And I want to first. I'm going to pull up my sheets, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at my rankings, and then we're going to do some builds, and then we're going to do SaberSim and just do the same type of process. But let's break it down by start time. So Boston, Ottawa, and Florida, Anaheim both seem to be very very friendly games. I mean, if you look at my sheets here, these are basically the two top stacks, right? Two top set of teams. I'm rating all these guys by value score, and you'll see that, you know, Florida and Boston are really the top teams. So they are both at 1 o'clock. So you're going to have to decide on how much of this you're going to have right just before lock. I will throw one thing out there again, and most of my hockey takes are kind of covered by the projections, but I will say I will throw in one thing here. I'm going to pull up NHL standings. I'm going to do it for a reason. So you have the Boston Bruins are 42-8. Okay. They're 42-8 and basically have a stranglehold on the #1 seed. All right. If I mean, listen, they don't. I shouldn't say that, but they're in really good shape. The reason I mention that is that if you're the Bruins, I would be a little bit cautious about overplaying your guys. You know, listen, you're 42-8. You have more important things to do than figure out how to pile on fantasy points in home games against Ottawa, right? I feel as though that the Boston franchise should be kind of try to restrict minutes of these guys. So yes, I mean, sort of that's factored into the projections because the projections do take into account ice time and things like that. But think about in terms of the NBA, you know, like what type of upside is there from these minutes projections for Boston are probably very, very small. You know, if anything, I think there'd be, you know, I don't want to say downside from the projections, but you could say that. You know, I don't think that there's like huge upside for Boston to just kind of pile on and almost like sort of blowout risks in a way. You know, if it's like 3-0 or something in a Boston game, first of all, it's not winning DFS wise, and I don't know how much they're really just going to put the pedal to the metal with their main lines here. So I think that given the choice between a team like the Bruins and a team like the Panthers, you say both of whom are going to project pretty well. I mean, you look at the Panthers; they're like right in the middle of the standings mix. So I would imagine that they would do more to pile on, so to speak. Okay. The other thing, again, I want to just look at what the implied goal total is for these games. So I'm comparing just these two, right? Because first of all, these are the two probably the best teams on the board, but let's just talk about it. So if you have, I mean, Boston rates to win by a goal and a half, and Florida rates to win by 2 goals. So you could argue also, though, that, I mean, in terms of blowout risk, sort of, you know, like if Florida's up 4-0, is 4 goals enough to win the slate? Probably not, right? But they really just want to make sure they get these wins. So I don't know. I think they both have some risk as far as that goes, but I think I prefer Florida to Boston if I had to prioritize those. And let's take a look again at the sheets and see where we're at here. So you want to play Florida, these all just kind of play itself. The power play line is all right at the top. Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhardt, then you have Montour, Ekblad. I mean, this is easy breezy. And then Boston still, you have Pasternak, who's expensive, but you can play him. Marchand, Bergeron, I mean, the usual characters, and DeBrusk as well in goal. Not in goal, sorry. And DeBrusk as well. So all that makes sense. But part of me wants to kind of do some funny business. So let's see what else there is here. So as far as team totals, you have Calgary and the Rangers are the two next, well, and Seattle are the three next teams, that are under the big ones, which would be Boston and Florida. So I'd love to think about try to play like a little more Calgary or Seattle or the Rangers. So why don't we take a look and see, how these guys kind of grade out over here, and you have to have a little bit of vision because, as I said, Florida and Boston do rate to be the best plays, but what else? I said Anaheim. So I guess Calgary would be the next, or I guess the Rangers, because I'm seeing a bunch of Rangers. Well, maybe not even a bunch. You have Kreider, rates okay. Chittle, rates okay, but he's not even on the same line. So it looks as though Calgary, having both Toffoli and Zub up from the first power play line, maybe this could be the pivot. Then you could play Backlund as well on the cheap. It's certainly on the risky side. Let's just take a look and see who else from Calgary you can play here. So it'd be Dubé, Toffoli would be good. Backlund, Kadri, he's on the even strength line maybe. So again, if you want to go low owned or lower owned, I think Calgary is decent. And the other ones I mentioned were Seattle and the Rangers. Let's take a look and see how those look. So Seattle, first we'll look at them just by rankings here. I mean, you got to go pretty far down to get to these guys. So, I mean, I don't know, like McCann. Yeah, this is rough. It's rough to get down to Seattle, but Rangers are not, well, yeah, Rangers look pretty brutal too. So it looks as though that if you're going to get off of either Florida or Boston, I think Calgary, at least as far as hand-built ones, are certainly the way, something that you can do here. And you'll see, by the way, this was my shell that I built like late last night. You know what I mean? Just I don't know if this is actually what I'm going to do, but you could build like a pretty cool little Calgary, couple of Seattles, and this is like only one guy from Florida, and nobody from Boston. So this is probably pretty way too low owned for a single entry or something like that. But that's the deal. So why don't we try to build some SaberSim lineups? Now again, this is having already updated my. I want to do a couple of things. First of all, let's do a build with the TrueDFS projections. So they've already been preloaded in here. So let's build with. What we're gonna do is we're gonna reset. We're gonna reset everything. How about that? Let's read this. Reset everything. We're gonna reset everything. We are gonna upload my projections, and we're gonna build, say, I don't know, 50 lineups using the standard. Ooh, what's happening? Why can't I build anything? Hold on a second. It should work. It did before. It's like shaded for some reason. I have no idea why this is. It's not working. What if I did it without the TrueDFS projections? Can that work? For some reason, this is all. my build lineups thing is shaded out. I don't know why. Well, you can't blame me for this, right? Start over. Okay, this is fine. All right, so I don't know what happened. So once again, we will re-upload the TrueDFS projections, and now we can build. All right, so 150 lineups. Well, actually, we'll build it based on the, I don't know, the 150 max settings, and we'll build 50 lineups, and let's see what the SaberSim builds look like. And then I'll show you like kind of what I would do to kind of tweak this a little bit. Okay, so not surprisingly, this is just a whole bunch of Florida and Boston, right? See that? All the Florida, all the Boston. When you look in team stacks, all the Florida, all the Boston. So I'm not saying not to do this, but it is definitely, you know, these are definitely the best plays. This might be a little bit chalky. Now, also, you should be aware that, you know, technically SaberSim factors in chalkiness and thinks that even though they're chalky, they're still worth, you know, they're still worth taking shots with. That they look like that great of a play. The other thing I'll look at here is what type of stack types I'd be getting, and I'll definitely do some work over here. Like I'm not going to play 4 O's. So I would just go right into set up this apply exposures. And I'll just X out the 4s and the 3 2s and the 3 O's. And I'll tell you, whenever I do this, whenever I override what SaberSim does, it does kind of give me a little bit of like a tremor in the force, you know, because you are relying on the algorithm to some degree, and when you're just Xing out stuff like this, it doesn't feel good, but that's the way it is. So when I do that, still getting mostly Florida, but now at least Seattle's starting to creep, you know, and the Rangers are starting to creep. And I'm getting less Boston, which is what I like. I mean, I really would prefer to have less Boston than Florida. Just to look at here, in the 5-man stacks, most of them are Floridas. So even with like the ownership, you know, discount that you're getting on other teams, SaberSim really wants you to just plow into these Floridas. And I'm not going to disagree with it, but it's definitely a chalky approach today. The reason why, now, the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to do another build with not my projections, but just use SaberSims. Just see what kind of difference there is. We'll do the same sliders, the same everything. Let me just see if there's like what the TrueDFS projection builds, how those differ from the SaberSim projected builds. It looks very similar, actually. Mostly Florida and Boston. A little more Rangers and Calgary if you just go with straight SaberSim, which is interesting. So one other thing I want to do is show you another tweak that you might want to consider. Is this, and you could do this either before build or after build. It's probably better to do before build. So actually, let's do that just to give you an example. What I want to do is just take out, hold on, I'll put the projections up first. Oops. Then what you might want to do is X out everybody who's on the 4th line. You know, like these guys that have like projections of like 4 and 5 points. I mean, it's just so hard for them to smash. maybe you're better off just like getting rid of these completely. Okay. I wonder if you could do it using a lineup rule, actually, make my life easier. Let's try this. Let's try this. I'm not really good at actual rules here. Add new rule. Let's do. How about this? We're gonna play. We're gonna rule type group. Is that what it is? Group we're gonna do, or we're gonna do a stack exactly 0, I guess. That must be on the same. Wait. Is that what you do? You take off 1, 2, and 3? That means exactly 0. I'm really not that good at this. So what I'll do, while I figure out how to do this a little bit faster, is I'll just go in here and I'll just X these guys out. You know what I mean? I'll just go X, X, X. And the other thing I could do, by the way, on my end, is I could just remove all the projections of anybody that projects less than 5 points, for example. Because what they'll do is, again, it's just there's so many freaking guys like eligible league play. There are like 20 guys from each team that are going to be on the ice over like a 10-game slate. I mean, that's a lot of players. And I'd like to think it's somebody from the third line. Well, let's leave the guys in that's on the first power play line. You think it's somebody from the third line is going to outscore like the top guys on the fourth line. The guys on the fourth line get nothing. Okay, so let's get rid of anybody. The only fourth line guys I'm going to take are guys that are from that at least on the first power play line. And let's see how that kind of changes it a little bit. Now, I don't think it'll change much, but it'll definitely change the stack types, I think, because it'll make it a little harder to get to some of these. So let's do this again. Let's go, after we've done this, we'll go 0, 0 of the 4 zeros, 0 of the 3 zeros, 0 of the 3 threes, 0 of the 3 twos. I want to have perfect correlation. I don't need one-offs. You know, so we'll get rid of the 4 2 twos. We'll get rid of the 4 2 zeros. We'll get rid of these. And again, like the more of these that you get rid of, the more it just kind of offends my senses a little bit. So here we have either 4 3s, 3 2 twos. Actually, 3 2 twos is no good because that's leaves me a one-off. Almost there. See all these lineups I had to get rid of. So now we got 4 3s, 5 2s, 6 zeros, and 3 3 2s. And let's just see how the team stacks kind of work out. So now it's a little bit more amenable here. So now I kind of like this because now I'm getting less Boston. That's what I like. Okay. Now, the other thing you're going to get, by the way, is you are going to leave money on the table playing this way. You know, being kind of like a stickler for whatever. Now, here's Timo Meier. You know, he is legit questionable, so I might just X him out for now in case I forget later. But that's not saying he's a bad player. This is like what I'm doing now. So good stack types, good team stacks, more Florida, but then we have Rangers and Seattle. Don't really have the Calgary, so I could just go ahead and, you know, just to have some fun. I could put like 15% Calgary. But it's not going to like that too much. All right, it doesn't like it that much. I'm not going to do it. I got enough with the Rangers and Seattle and Philly. Philly, that's interesting. Philly against Calgary. Well, let's do it. Let's force in some Calgary. We'll force in some Calgary, and we'll see if those rules held there. Oh yeah, hey Jimmy. Yeah, Cantley was very, very, very strong, very steady the whole time. And you'll see that the more rules you put in, the harder it is to build these things. So now what I'm getting after I redo this, and this is what I just keep doing. I just keep on doing this. So stack types again is very good. Team stacks, Florida Rangers, a whole bunch of Calgary. So this is a very, very unorthodox build here. This is getting very well under the field on Boston. Now I'm a little less on Seattle because I went with more Calgary than Seattle, but I like this. And this is what I'll do. This is what I will do in my stacks. As far as 5-mans, see, I'm not getting, boy, the only 5-mans I'm getting are Phillies, pretty much, which I don't really like too much. So maybe we'll go back to this other build then. Maybe forcing in the Calgarys is not exactly what I wanted to do. Maybe I'll just live with Florida Rangers, Islanders. And the other thing I could do, by the way, I could just keep my big buy-in as being Calgary, which is interesting, right? That's an interesting way to play. So if I replace these, I'll do my MME with no Calgary. I mean, not no Calgary, with like very little Calgary. Then I'll put my big buy-in with Calgary just because I'm stubborn. Then we can make this work. And I don't think I want to play 50, I want to play less. We'll keep this out here. We are going to just keep this. So this is a very this is especially for me. I usually don't play. I usually get my differentiation not in my main stacks. I get my differentiation usually in my 2s, my 1-offs, and stuff like that. So for me to take such a big stand here against Boston, for example, is not really like me, but I just kind of like it. Okay. I guess that's pretty much it. Let me see what else we have coming up today. Is there any LCS today? No, the next next League of Legends not till 4 a.m. Then Wednesday, where there's like in the middle of the day stuff. No, actually not really. There's no LCS in the middle of the day. Oh, they have KOI versus G2 in the finals today. That's just a showdown. I'm not doing that. Is there a later NHL slate? I think there might be. No, there's no later NHL slate. So there's no NHL, no NASCAR, no NFL, no MMA, no soccer today. Champions League tomorrow. And tennis, we're already in. There's a late slate today. I'm not putting up sheets for that, though. And I think we're pretty good. We have golf coming up this weekend as usual. Hopefully capitalize on that. And I'm going to, I guess that's going to do it. Make sure you check for your goalies. Make sure that they're playing. But aside from that, I'm going to call this a night or a day. Very long day. Hey, you know what? If I'm live deep, maybe I'll come live and have a late NHL live sweat. That would be fun. But I'll tell you this, if it's like Boston 7-0 at the end of the first period at 1:15 or something like 1:30, I'm probably dead. All right, that'll do.